This video is called the Concord Suite Demo Part 1. The Concord Suite is a software package that gives you a complete design and processing software package for image type bubble forms that are scanned using an image or page scanner. The Concord Suite includes the Concord Forms Design program and the Remark Office OMR scanning reporting program. In this video, we will show you how easy it is to create a new scan form using the Easy Form Design Wizard in the Concord Forms Designer, and talk a little bit about the full Forms Designer also in the Concord Forms Design software. In the second video, Concord Suite Demo Part 2, we will discuss how to scan your forms and produce reports using the Remark Office OMR program that is the other half of the Concord Suite. We will be moving quickly through the design process because this is just a demonstration. There are other videos that go into much more detail about how to use the Concord Forms Designer. So before we get started, we like to show you a few forms so you can get an idea of what an image scan form looks like and what you can design with the Concord software. This form is a conference evaluation, just a basic standard type of form where we have title, some instructions, a logo, our fill-in circles completely box, some Likert style questions down here, and then a small comments area at the bottom. So this is just a standard type of form. Let's move on to the next one. And here we have a cardiology clinic survey or an evaluation type form with a few extra things on here. For the child's age, we have a 0 through 9 grid in the vertical direction. Same thing over here for the zip code. Then down here we have a number of multiple choice questions, and they are set up in a horizontal direction. Up here for the number 2 question, the child's race, we have a vertical formatted multiple choice question. And then down at the bottom we just have some different kinds of multiple choice questions, same sort of thing. Once again, just a standard type form, gives you an idea of what you can do with the software. Close this one, and the last one we're going to look at is a tourist bureau survey. There are a couple things here that are a little bit different. These dollar signs that are marked in yellow are data merge fields. The Concord software has the ability to merge data with a form while they're being printed to customize the form. So in this case, what would be printed here is the name and address of each motel on the form. And then over here we have hotel ID also that would be pre-printed on the form as the forms are being printed. And then we have a fairly standard type of survey form with some multiple choice questions over here done in different formats, and a few Likert style question right here. So just once again, just gives you an idea. This is done in a 2-column format, so it gives you an idea of what you can do with software. Okay, so let's move on to what we're going to design today. We're going to design a form that looks very much like this. This form will be used in the second video when we go to process and scan some forms. The form we're going to design will look very much like this using the Easy Form Design Wizard. And to start the wizard, you simply go to File and Easy Form Design Wizard, and you first see this window. The idea here is the software is showing you what kinds of forms you can design. Not only can you design survey and evaluation type forms like this one here on the left, you can also design testing and assessment type forms like this one here on the right. So we're just going to say yes right here, and this is what the wizard looks like. The wizard is just a window with 6 tabs across the top for different parts of your form. First thing we're going to do is type in a name here because we can't move on if we don't. So we're just going to call this Easy Form Eval. Okay, and then just to show you, this window or tab has the properties of the form. We have a top of the form fields tab, we have a bottom of the form fields tab, and then we have 3 question type tabs: multiple choice, Likert, and test responses. So on the form properties, these are the general properties of the form, and you're allowed to change these. We're going to change this from black to blue, but if you were printing on a black and white printer, you'd leave it as black. You can change the font. We're going to leave it as Arial. The response shape is circle. Although you do have the choice of ovals or squares, we're going to leave it as circles. And then you can make the form portrait or landscape. We have different paper sizes here, from 11 by 17, US Legal, and some other paper sizes. And you can make the form one-sided or two-sided depending on your scanner. So all we've changed here is the form color, and that's all we need to change here. The defaults for a lot of the wizard will design you a very nice form, and there's really no need to change a lot of them. So let's go to the top of the form and let's add some fields to the top of the form. Now I'm going to slide this over just a little bit, because we're going to talk about these parts. This is the top of the form, and these are the parts we're going to talk about. So I'm going to put in a title text, and I can type it in. We're just going to call it Easy Form Evaluation. And if I wanted to add several lines of title text, I can continue to do that up to about 50 lines, but we're just going to leave it as a single line. Then I'm going to add my logo for this form. You can add a graphic of any kind. We're adding our Data Blocks logo, so I'm going to select that one there. You can add any kind of bitmap file. And I can move the logo around, but I'm going to leave it on the left side just as we have here on this form. So the next thing we're going to add is a date field. That would look like this field right here. So we're going to tell it to add a date field. We're going to leave it as a 2-digit year. We could add a 4-digit year. Then we're going to add our 0 through 9 field, and you don't have to add these fields. We're adding them for illustration here, but if you don't need this kind of field on your form, then you don't need to add it here. We're going to reduce this from 6 to 4 columns as we have here, and we're going to change our heading text to group ID just as we have there. We're going to skip the name field because that's really more for testing or assessment type forms, and then we're going to add our fill in the bubbles completely section, which is this box right here. It tells people to fill in the bubbles completely, don't X them, partially fill them in, or check them. And we're also going to tell it to add the use pen or pencil, because with this software you can use pen or pencil to fill out your forms. And then the last thing we're going to add to the top of our form is the instructions. Now, you often have a lot of the text that you're going to put on the form in some other software, and so that you don't have to retype it all, you can do a lot of cutting and pasting. That is what we're going to do. So I'm going to clip over here to my Word document, and the paragraph of text that I want is right up here. These are the instructions I want to put in. So I'm going to select those, go up here, tell it to copy those into the paste buffer, and then go back down to my form, and with a Control V, which is the standard Windows paste command, I can paste those instructions in here. So that's all the fields that we would like to put at the top of the form. So we can go on to the next part of our form. And although this form doesn't have a multiple choice question, I'm going to add one just to show you how that works. Here is the question text and the labels for the multiple choice question. I'm going to go back over here to my Word document, and I'm just going to grab this first question here. Now, I've got this set up in such a way that I can pull a little speed trick here. I'm going to get the responses and the question all at once. Once again, we're going to copy them into our paste buffer, go down here, and here's the trick. If I Control V here to paste, it only pastes the first line because that's a one-line entry box, and then go down here to my labels and Control V again. It pastes the labels or the answers and the question. I don't want the question, so I'm just going to grab these with a Control X, which is the cut, and a Control V. There's my question. So that's how easy it is. If I wanted to add some instructions above this question, I can do that right here. But that's how easy it is to add a multiple choice question. And if I wanted to continue to add some, I would just click next here. It cleans the entry boxes and we would be able to enter another one. But we're going to move on to our Likert style questions. So we're going to click on the Likert style tab, and notice that I can go back and forth to any of these tabs whenever I feel like it. So there's no problem doing that. So for our Likert style question, we're going to go back over here to our Word document once again. I'm going to scroll down. I have the questions that I want on this form right here in this table. Now the questions don't have to be in a table. They can just be one line per question, and we can copy them into the paste buffer, go back over here to our form, click on the question text, and with a Control V, I can paste all 16 questions in there. So that saved me a lot of typing and work. Now for the labels, I could go back over there and select those labels because I do have them in there, but I also have this item right here called Select Scale. These scales are already set up for you, and you can add more scales. Now for our answers on this form, we're going to use excellent to poor. So I'm going to select that scale, click OK, and it fills in these labels. Okay. I then have some group properties that I can change. The number of lines between questions is one of those. Over here, we don't have any blank lines between questions. They are consecutive, and so we would leave this at 1 if we wanted to. I'm going to add 1 just to show you the difference. We're going to make this 2. On the number of columns between the bubbles, whenever you see this word AutoCalc in the wizard, that means that the software will automatically calculate the number of columns needed for your form, so you really don't have to do anything here. If you decided you didn't like the way that the software calculated those columns, you can come back into the wizard and change this number. So you do have a lot of control over how your questions look, but I'm going to leave that as AutoCalc. And we are going to shade alternate rows and shade across the response area. That's what these light shadings do here. They're shading alternate rows and they're moving across the bubble area. There are times when you wouldn't want to put the shading across the bubble areas. The numbering questions, since we didn't put any numbers in our question text, I'm going to go ahead and let it number the questions, and it's going to start the group at 1. So that's all I need to do here, unless I want to put in an instruction up above, which actually I think I'll do because I have one here on this form. So I'll just type this in. I could copy it, but we'll just type it in. Please rate. Oops, we made a typo there. Each question from excellent to poor. Okay, so there is my instructions, and that'll appear right here. So if I wanted to continue to add Likert style questions, I could click next here, and the software is now telling me that I've moved on to the second page because of the extra lines I put between the questions. We've moved on to a second page, so you'll see that when we generate the form. But I could continue to add groups of Likert style questions right here, but I'm not going to, since we only have the one here, and we're going to move on to the bottom of the form. So here we have the tab for the bottom of the form fields, and we're going to add a few things here. We're going to click on add an open-ended or comments area, and we're going to change the label from just the word comments to please tell us what you think. So you can add anything here, and we're going to increase this from 4 lines to 8 just to make it a little bit larger. And then we're going to add some footer text at the bottom, and this is just text that you might want to finish off your form. Something, thank you for taking our survey. You could also put things, if you were sending this form to the general public, you might want to put in mail to and give the address that this should be mailed to, just to make sure that they have that in case for some reason they didn't have it available. Any other kind of text you might want to put here. But that's all we're going to do here. And so we're now ready to generate our form because we've added fields to the bottom of our form, to the top of our form. We've added a multiple choice question, some Likert style questions as well. So now when we click OK down here, the software is telling us it's just going to go ahead and generate the form. So the first thing we have to do is save the form, and it pulled up the name that we entered earlier, and we're just going to say save here. I'm going to go up one level and then we'll say save. And then let's look at what the software designed for us. Okay, so here are the top of the form fields. As you saw in the previous form, everything that we told it to add is here. Our logo, title, group ID, date, instructions, fill in the bubbles completely box. And then below that, we're into the body of the form, and here is the first multiple choice question that we added. And then below that is the start of our Likert style questions, and it only ran to 8 here before it ran out of room. So the software created a second page, and here it added the last of our questions up to 16, and the software repeats the labels on the second page if it has to split a set of Likert style questions. Then our software added the comments area down here. I'm going to slide this blue box out of the way. This box has more to do with the scanning, and it will be discussed in more detail in the second video. But then the software added the wizard added our 8-line comments area with the text that we told it to add, and then we got the footer text down here at the bottom. So that is what the wizard does. It will generate the form for you. You don't have to worry if this is not exactly what you want with your form, because you can go back into the wizard and out of the wizard as many times as you want. Do be aware that it regenerates the form each and every time you come out of the wizard. But we're going to look up here on our object bar. This object bar is this third bar down here. It changes depending on what you have selected on the screen. But on the object bar, we have nothing selected, so we see this Back to Easy Form button. We can also go to File and Back to Easy Form Wizard. And the software is telling us here, and this is important, that fields may have been changed. Are you sure you want to go into the wizard? Because when you exit the wizard, any changes you made by hand are going to be erased. The software cannot keep up with changes that are made by hand at this time. So the reason we're getting this message is because I moved this blue box right here, and it's just telling us that that change will be erased. So I'm going to click OK here, and it brings us back into the wizard, and we can see that everything that we put in before is still here. There's the blue form color that we changed. The top of the form fields are still here. We're going to change a couple of things here just to show you the difference. One of them is I'm just going to eliminate this multiple choice question. So I'm going to click here to go back to the first question, first and only question, and we're going to just delete that question. So now we have no multiple choice questions. We're then going to go to the Likert style question and then go back to our first set. And what I want to change here is the number of lines between the questions, because I want to cut our form down to be 1 page. So I'm going to change this to 1. And then the last thing I'm going to change is at the bottom of the form, I'm going to go back to a 3-line form so that we can go back to 1 pages as the software is telling us here. Okay, click yes here. And we have all of the same fields except the multiple choice question is gone. Our Likert style questions have no blank lines in between them, and we only have 3 lines for our comments area. So every time you go into the wizard, the form gets regenerated, and you can go in and out of that wizard as many times as is necessary. Now, once you have the form in, this is what is known as the full Forms Designer. We could have designed this entire form by hand using the standard tools that are available to you. Drawing tools such as responses or bubbles, text, line, boxes, shading, graphics. And then We have some predefined fields so that the software will actually build a date for you or a group ID, puts all the boxes around it, all the shading, all these little boxes at the top. So with these tools, we could have designed this form completely by hand, but we used the wizard because that's even a nicer tool and gets you a lot further along. At this point, being in the wizard, we can make hand changes. We can change anything we want in this form. And this is important to know. Once again, if you make hand changes and then go back into the wizard, those changes will disappear because the software cannot keep up with any hand changes you make as it regenerates the form each time you leave the wizard. But to change a field, you simply click on it, and you can see this is a single text field, and you can tell that it has the field markers around it, so that tells you that it's selected. You can just double click on the field and it'll pop up the field properties, and you can see that everything is labeled here, so you can see very nicely what each of the things on the object bar are. So if I just wanted to change the color, let's say I wanted to change it to black, and then click OK, the software makes the change. You will find that a number of these fields are single, like this field. The object or the logo is a single field. But when you click down here on something like this box, no matter where I click here, I get one set of field markers around the outside of this area. This is a grouped or linked field. All of the separate objects within this field are linked together into a solid whole. I cannot change them while they're in this state. I can move the object, I can drag it wherever I want to. I'm just left clicking and dragging this box around. I can move it, but I can't change it. If I want to change it, I need to unlink. Whenever you have a link selected, if you look up here in the object bar, you'll find that there's a button called Unlink Selected Objects, and when I click on that, you can see that now each of the objects that make up this link have separate field markers around them. So if I wanted to change something, let's say I wanted to change the color of this to black, I can select, use pen or pencil. I can go up here, make it black to highlight it even further. And then I can left click and drag a select box around all of these objects, and you can now see that they're selected again by the field markers that are around each of the objects. And up on the object bar, my button has changed from unlink to link. Whenever you have multiple objects selected that aren't already links, you'll see this button. You can also use the tools up here for link selected objects and unlink selected objects. I'm going to click on the link, and it makes this back into a whole linked field. Okay, so that's important to know, because if you want to change some of these things, you have to know that you need to unlink them first and then relink them. Things that are often linked are boxes like this group ID, this is all linked together, this date is all linked together, and then more importantly, these Likert style questions are all linked together. So if I wanted to change something in here, I have to once again unlink them and then go in and change them. I'm going to select all of these pieces of text and I'm going to set them all to black, and then I can relink. Now I've selected this set of instructions and it is not part of my link, which we'll explain more in the second video, but I'm going to press the shift key, click on it to unlink it, because it would not go well in our link. I'm going to link them back. We pop up the link properties dialog box. This will be discussed more once again in the second video. So this is a little bit about how you can modify your form, and you can modify it any way you want. I noticed up at the top that the software left a little bit of extra space here, so if I want to get rid of that, I'm going to left click and drag a box over all the fields on the form, and I'm going to scroll back up here and I'm going to put my cursor on any one of these objects, left click, and I can pop the whole thing up. I could go even farther if I wanted to. Okay, and I can, so you can modify this form rather dramatically if you want to. It's entirely up to you. Just be aware that if you go back into the click off here, if I was to go back into the wizard, I'm going to get this warning that says fields may have been moved, changed, or added. Any changes will be erased. Do you want to continue? I'm going to say no here. And then I'm going to click on the Save Form tool, and let's save our form. So that is the completion of this video, which shows you how to use the Easy Form Design Wizard and a little bit about how to modify the form once you're in the full Forms Designer. So if you are interested, please watch the second video, Concord Suite Demo Part 2.